I just want to ask you again around the impact, how you see things going in terms of the dairy industry growing and the impact that that's going to have on beef, because beef farmers, I suppose, are particularly concerned about where it's all going to end. I do want to commend you on some of the measures in the knowledge transfer scheme and all of those things, and I think they're hugely important. But at the end of the day, unless we get to sort out where the actually 2.4 billion connected to the beef industry is going, we won't be able to sort the problem. So we'll be limited in how we approach this problem. I want to ask you as well, have you done any models of the vertical integration as is being done with pigs and poultry and other sectors? And why cannot that be done with beef? And I want you to comment on, I suppose, the beef industry or farming in particular, particularly farming on the marginalised land where I come from, in terms of looking at farming and farming in the west of Ireland in terms of a public good, and what supports you think need to be put in place to really look at farming in the more marginalised areas as a public good in terms of the contribution that it makes to rural Ireland and to rural communities. I'll probably leave my question in at that. I mean, I want to ask what your relationship is with the beef factories and what role that you can play in terms of the pricing with beef factories, and again maybe what you're doing in terms of export and in terms of trying to engage with the Chinese market and the replacement of the shortage of pork in that area.
Senator Conway-Walsh asked about the impact of the dairy sector on the beef sector, and look, there's no doubt we're seeing a fundamental change really in the beef sector, which is maybe going back to where we were a little bit in the past when we had 400,000 suckler cows and 1.4 million dairy cows. And I don't know, I'm not suggesting we're going to get back to that sort of a level of suckler cows, at least not in the short or medium term. But I think there were lots of differences then as well. Like at the time we had 70,000 dairy farmers. The average size of the average dairy herd at that time was 20 cows. Now those farmers, a lot of them have got out of dairy and got into sucklers or whatever, and they're not going to go back into dairy production. So while there is a fundamental change going on, it's not back to the future, because the structure of the industry has changed quite significantly. It is going to impact on the share of the kill that's coming from dairy beef. We see the trend in that in the last couple of years. That's just going to continue. I think that's why it's really important then that we work on the quality of the calf coming from the dairy herd, as well as continuing to support the suckler herd. In terms of models of vertical integration, there is a certain amount of that going on through factories contracting to feedlots, really to finish cattle, contracted farmers with feedlots to finish cattle. We've seen a few models over the last number of years. There were some models where factories integrated with suppliers for particular markets, and there's been some new developments in that region as well. And look, I think they are, they have a role to play in terms of trying to give some certainty to the producer as to what the margin might be at the end of it. And Senator Conway-Walsh also talked about the role of farming as a public good, and one of the slides we showed there was its environmental performance, and beef farming has a very, very strong environmental performance, and it contributes a lot to biodiversity, it contributes a lot to good water quality and so on, and that is a very important facet of the industry. And there was a question in relation to the cap from Senator Daly, and I think the cap should and will, I think, try to target the people that are supplying those environmental goods in a way that rewards them for that contribution that they're making. Senator Conway-Walsh also asked about our relationship with beef factories and our role with regard to pricing and role in relation to exports to China. Well, look, we have no kind of formal relationship with the beef factories. We collaborate with them in various initiatives that they take, I suppose, to try to support producers. Very often we collaborate with them on that. So, for instance, the Better Beef programme that I talked about, the Teagasc Farmers Journal Better Beef programme, the people that put the money in to hire the advisors that work on that are the three large meat companies, three, isn't it?
Three and FPD.
Yeah, and FPD. So things like that. We also collaborate with them on research around meat quality through Meat Technology Ireland, which is an Enterprise Ireland funded initiative, Enterprise Ireland and meat factories funded initiative looking at the post-farm gate aspects of meat quality. So we collaborate with them on that, but as regards we have no relationship at all with them with regard to pricing or how they fix prices or fix. I don't mean that in the term it might be interpreted, but just in we'll say how they set prices. Yeah. And in relation to exports to China, again, we don't have a very significant or direct role in that, but we have been involved in I suppose, when the various delegations come here to Ireland, we support the department in relation to bringing them out onto farms and telling them about the production system and giving them the information really as to, the sustainability and the animal welfare aspects of our industry.